Hello and welcome back to What's in the Making, where I'm Millie and this is a space where I talk about the past, present, and future of my making. Today's video will hopefully be a short little one. So naturally this time of year I've been getting a lot of ads for gift ideas, for gift guides, and as somebody who is a knitter, a baby sewist, and frequently led by the delusion of the inner monologue saying, I can make that, naturally my eye gets caught by the knitted items as well as the items that I reasonably think I could sew, ergo you could sew too. And thus the idea of this video was born. So I'm calling this the cool brand. Like, I don't know how to categorize these brands aside for like they're cool brands. They're brands on the internet. They're brands that like major publications will feature in their gift guides, whatever. I feel very uncool calling them cool brands, but I also can't think of a better term for them. So let's just call them the cool brands, right? So this is the Cool Brand Gift Guide DIY edition. And I have narrowed it down to 15 or 16 items. However, if you like the look of these items, I totally recommend giving the gift guides themselves from these brands a look because they have curated a bunch of beautiful objects. Some of them are definitely out of my budget, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy window shopping. And also sometimes, end of season sales are right around the corners after the holidays. You never know what you'll find. So I have split the gift guide into two parts. First, I will talk about the knit gift ideas, and in the second half of the video I will talk about the sewn gift idea. Without further ado, let's get into the knit gifts. So we are starting off strong with some pieces from Bode. Is that how I pronounce the brand? Bode? Bode. They make beautiful knitwear, beautiful and expensive knitwear, and naturally as a knitter I can make that. First, we have their snowflake mittens, which are $230. They're made with 100% merino wool. And does it really get more classic than a pair of Selbu mittens? I love the traditional motifs on this. I'm usually not really into like monograms or brand names, but I think it looks really cute on these mittens. This is such an easy project to make yourself. You could literally color the you could literally copy the cover charts exactly from the photos, or you could go onto Ravelry and search for Salbu mitten patterns, and you will have a plethora of options. One that I wanted to highlight are the Salbu mittens by Skein Knits. These do have, I think, two star motifs on the top, the Bode pattern, but I think it gives a very similar vibe. I also like that it also has that same kind of like stripy detail or braidy detail or whatever around the perimeter of the hand. I do wish that the Bode pattern had a picture of the wrong side of the mittens, like the other side, but just from like the bare like perimeter that's visible, it does look like it might have a similar motif to the ones in the Skein knit pattern. And while I was looking at salvo mittens on Ravelry, I also found this book that has a bunch of different salvo mittens, and I'm gonna see if I can track it down secondhand because I just love the curation of mitten patterns in this book. Oh, and I also really love the color scheme of these mittens. The brown and cream look so good and classic, but not like in an outdated way. But also, I really like Subtle mittens, so I don't think they ever look outdated. I just think they look timeless. And to be honest, I feel like timeless is an adjective I'll be using a lot in this video because I do think a lot of these pieces look timeless and classic in my opinion. Next, I didn't really want to do doubles, but I had to. I love these Bode Duchess mittens, they're called. These ones are even pricier. They are $245, and they're also made with merino wool. At first, I thought that the border along the edge of them was garter stitch, but upon a closer inspection, I think it's actually some sort of braided motif. Either way, I think it's a really cute detail, and I also really love how they striped the thumbs. I love the contrast against the other colorwork motif that's used for the rest of the mitten. And again, this red and cream color combo just looks so good. I love how it has the little like tassel or tie at the wrist, so you could tie them together or tie them to the inside of your jacket or the gift recipient's jacket. And actually all three of the Bode pieces that I will be sharing, the knit pieces are all inspired by mittens from the 1930s, children's mittens, which I think is cute. Again, this is a very simple motif, so I think you could just find a plain mitten pattern and put these on top. These I think are even easier to knit because there's no ribbing, and for me, whenever I'm knitting socks or mittens, it's always the ribbing that takes me the longest and that I struggle with the most because small circumference ribbing is just even less fun than regular ribbing, which I already don't enjoy. Like I was saying, you could literally just copy the colorwork motif from the Bode mittens, but I actually found a pretty similar free pattern from Drops. Now, maybe I just thought they looked very, very similar because these ones are also knit in a red and cream color scheme. But honestly, I think they have a very similar vibe. These ones, maybe the red is featured more prominently, but you could always flip the colors if you fancied. I think you could also, I'm not sure what the technique that the Bode mitten uses, but I feel like it has a similar vibe to either garter stitch or to a Latvian braid. And if you wanted, you could add those to the wrist of this mitten pattern. But I actually like the little like bobbly details that are on along the wrist of this Drops pattern. And then I have one last Bode pattern, and these are these snowflake socks. Like the first pair of mittens, these are also $230. And I immediately loved these socks as soon as I saw them. I feel like you often see Selbo mittens, but it's not as common to see them in socks. And I have something in my eye. As I was saying, I feel like Selbu mittens are definitely more common than Selbu socks. These use the exact same snowflake motif, and then they also have like the same kind of like circular and striped motif going on, as well as a long ribbed leg. And similar to what I said about the mittens, you could just find a vanilla sock pattern and copy the color work exactly as on the socks. However, again, they don't include a lot of pictures, so I'm not exactly sure what is on the bottom of the sock. I do think if you were wanting the whole sock to be plain besides for the motif, you would have to knit them flat and then seam them up, or you could kind of do the same thing as the mittens where you would have that plain background on the top of the foot, but then on the bottom of the foot you could have some sort of colorwork motif so you wouldn't have to carry the float like all the way around the sock. And I personally really love the look of a long ribbed leg, or it's not even a cuff, it's literally a leg. And I'll talk about this in a little bit in the next gift idea. But let's go back to these socks. So like I was saying, you could DIY these yourself, putting the colorwork pattern on a vanilla sock pattern. Or again, you can look on Ravelry and search for Selbu and filter under socks. Or you can also search for snowflake, and there are quite a few patterns. None that are exactly like this. I think most of them follow a more traditional hand knit sock pattern where the motifs are smaller, so you don't have these long, huge floats. And some of the patterns, one of the patterns I should say that I really liked were the Northern Sky Socks by Running Yarn. They have a smaller motif repeating all through the leg and the foot, and I think they kind of have a similar vibe to the Bode socks if you wanted to follow a more traditional sock pattern. And I think these would actually also look really good in the cream and dark brown color combo that the Bode socks are made with. And maybe you could add a long ribbed cuff or a long ribbed leg to kind of mimic the same vibe as the Bode socks. I totally forgot to say, actually, I did find a pair of technically slippers that are kind of similar to the Bode pattern. They are from an out of print book. However, when I searched on eBay, I was able to find secondhand copies of it. And it is the Norwegian Star Slipper by Laura Farson. And these are written as slippers at a worsted weight gauge, but you could knit them with thinner yarn, extend the leg, and you have a pair of socks. And talking about ribbed socks, I was kind of surprised to see how frequently I was seeing ribbed socks in gift guides. But then I was thinking my perception of socks has maybe been skewed as a knitter. Like most people probably do not have wool socks in their wardrobe. Whenever I have seen like well-made wool socks, they're usually pretty expensive. So in the Bode gift guide, they had these ribbed socks. And then also in the And Daughter gift guide, they had a pair of cashmere ribbed socks. I personally just love the look of both of these socks. As I was saying before, the cloud decided to block the sun. I think rib socks socks are a great gift knit because they have a lot more stretch and flexibility in terms of sizing in comparison to a colorwork sock or a plain stockinette sock. They will fit a wider range of sizes. And if you were to knit these with a DK weight gauge or a worsted weight gauge, they would knit up really, really quickly as a gift knit, and they'd just be so comfy, cozy. Now, if you do knit it at a thicker gauge, they'll probably be boot socks or house socks, but that could also be a perfect gift depending on who you're giving them to. I also really loved the striped detail on the Bode socks. It's such a minor thing, but I don't know. I think it just makes them look extra cozy. And they also have Bode embroidered on the bottom of the foot, and it kind of gave me the idea of, so when you're hand knitting socks, I don't think going back and duplicate stitching something on the foot would be very comfortable. But you could go and duplicate the person's initials or their name on either like the top of the foot, before the toe, or along the leg. And I think it'd just be a very cute way to personalize the gift. While we are looking at the and daughter gift guide, their gift guide was so good. They have so many beautiful knit sweaters, and I personally have some of their sweaters that I purchased before I became a knitter. And even though my winter wardrobe is mostly hand knit sweaters, I still have my and daughter sweaters because the quality is really good. The materials they use are good. They're made in Scotland mostly. And yeah, totally recommend if it's in your budget. I personally bought mine all at the end of season sales when they're like 50 to 70% off. So they're pricey, but for a wool sweater, I personally think they were worth the price. Let's not talk about the sweaters in their gift guide, but let's talk about some of the accessories. And like I mentioned, they had those cashmere socks. It was interesting to see the socks were 85% cashmere, 15% nylon, because I have never seen a yarn like that. But if you do know a cashmere nylon blend like that, do share, because I would like to get on that. I've only seen MCN bases, which are only 15% cashmere. Anyways, the next item on this gift knit ideas list is this hand knit hood by Anne's Daughter. This is another pricey piece, over $200, made with lamb's wool in Scotland. This just looks so cozy, and I was looking at it to try to decide, like, why do I think that this looks maybe a little bit more elevated than your basic balaclava. And I think it comes down to the details, as with a lot of these pieces. First, it looks like it's knit at a pretty tight gauge, which would be good for a winter piece because it will keep out the wind. So let me brighten this a little bit. As I was saying, it looks like these are knit at a tighter gauge to make them wind resistant. I also love the look of the longer ribbing along the neck, and it looks like it has a nice like tubular bind off or tubular cast on, however it was knit. And it looks also like there is a double knit border around the face, giving it a very clean finish. It does look like it is seamed along the top of the head, which is not my favorite detail, but something to note. And when I was looking at patterns on Ravelry that were similar to this, there is a plethora of balaclava or hood patterns, and I found a few. First, we have the Mila balaclava by Witra Design. I really liked the photos not loading. I really liked how cozy this one looked. It looks like it is knit with all ribbing. And again, it has like that very clean finishing along the face opening. It does seem like this one has some positive ease as well. Maybe not as much as the and daughter one, but a considerable amount because like the model has her bangs out. They're not like sitting plastered to her face from the tightness of the balaclava. And then I actually found two free patterns from Drops that also had a similar vibe. First is the Uncharted Territory balaclava, and this one has that really long ribbing that I liked in the and daughter one. And it does have like a 2x2 rib along the face opening, and I think if I were to knit this one, I would just adjust it to have a double knit border instead. This one also does not have as much positive ease, but that is a pretty easy fix. Just either knit it a size larger, or if you've knit a balaclava before, this looks like it has a pretty standard construction where you start off with a rectangle and then you pick up along the sides to make the shape. So for more positive ease, you could either knit that initial rectangle like when you cast on with more stitches, or you could also and that would make it wider. That would make it wider this way. And if you want it longer this way, you would just knit the body of the balaclava longer to give yourself that extra ease. And then I had one last pattern that I would recommend for this dupe, and it is another drops pattern. This is Lana Azul by Drops. This is another bulky weight pattern similar to the Witcher design one, and this one does have a lot of positive ease, and it looks like it has like a folded over face opening, so it'd be extra cozy and warm. I'm not sure I love the ribbing on this one. It seems like it kind of like extends out, kind of like, you know, those lizards that have like, or like in Jurassic Park. What am I trying to say? You know those lizards that have like the things that flare out? For some reason, just like the shape of this is reminding me of those lizards. But also, it's kind of reminding me of a Jacobean ruffle, which I do like more as a reference. But either way, if you wanted to knit this as a dupe for the Andata one, I would just change that ribbing into like a simple 1x1 rib, and I wouldn't do the increases to make it wider like is included in this drops pattern. And then the last item that I really liked and thought I could do that from the Andata gift guide is this neckerchief, but they call it a fouillard. No, that I remember looking at the pronunciation of this word and I was like, it looks so much fancier on paper than it's pronounced. Like on paper, it looks so fancy. And then when I heard the pronunciation, I'm like, maybe just my accent. It was foulard. Foulard, okay. I don't know. Foulard does not sound very fancy to me, but that's what they call it. So this one is basically very, very similar to a Sophie scarf. And despite the popularity of the Sophie scarf over the last 2 winters, last winter definitely, probably the previous winter too, it's been out for a while. I've never really felt a strong urge to have one for myself, make one for myself. I cast one on, but I kind of gave up on it halfway. It was just like a travel project. But something about this Daughter one just looks so chic to me. And I think it comes down to the proportions. So theirs actually comes in 2 sizes. They have a regular size and an extra large size. And I think the reason I like this one is because it is wide, but it's not too deep. Like it has that perfect golden ratio for my personal aesthetic, and just like from my limited experience in knitting shawls, I've found that those are the shapes that I find easiest for me to wear, because when they go really deep, I just don't really like the way it looks on me. I think it looks kind of awkward. And thankfully, the Daughter one, they share the exact dimensions of both that they make. So if I were to knit this, I would just knit it to the exact same dimensions that they have. And I found 2 free patterns that I would use as the base. So first is the Cuddle Kerchief by Aniki Studio. And second is the Easy Peasy Bandana by Sézane Muller. Sometimes I don't know if autocorrect. Okay, Sézane Muller. And both of these do have slightly different dimensions from the Daughter one, but I think it'd be pretty easy to modify. What I would do is I would just decrease the increase rate on both of these, and then you would have something that is wider but shallower and more similar to the shape of the Daughter ones. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I did buy some Angora yarn when I was in Loop. I've been thinking of what to make with it, and I'm gonna see if I have enough yarn to make this for myself. That is an idea. Giving myself ideas in the middle of filming, that's great. And I guess while we're on the topic of basic but wearable and usable gift knits, I couldn't make this video without including a hat. I'm sorry, I just couldn't. And as soon as I saw this ribbed hat on the Sézane gift guide, I knew I was going into this video. I love a good ribbed hat. I think they're so wearable and usable, and the ribbing, similar to a ribbed sock, the stretchiness of the ribbing means it can fit a variety of sizes, and you don't have to worry as much about getting the exact right perfect fit as you would with a stockinette hat. And I love my Manhattan hat. I wear it almost every single day, and I keep meaning to make a second one. So if I were to gift knit a ribbed hat, I personally would pick the Manhattan hat by Tori Yu. However, I think the main difference between different ribbed hat patterns is the crown shaping. And if you want to get a ribbed hat or make one for yourself, I would recommend looking on Ravelry and really looking at the different crown shapings to see which one you prefer. If you really like the look of this Sézane beanie with the long folded over brim and the way that the crown shaping is work, I would recommend the Weekend Hat by Petite Knit because it looks like it has the same or similar crown shaping to this Sézane one. And I do think part of the reason why the Sézane one appealed to me is I really, really loved the subtle halo in this. So I looked at the fiber content of it, and it is knit, or I guess it made, I mean, machine knit, so still knit, with an alpaca polyamide blend. Now, I feel like it is tempting to use a fluffy yarn like a mohair or a Surrey to knit a fluffy hat, but personally, I find that my forehead is pretty sensitive and I haven't never knit a mohair hat for that reason. Like when I have fluffy knits and they have like a turtleneck, sometimes they can irritate my neck a little bit, and I feel like my forehead is even more sensitive. So for that reason, I've never made a mohair hat. And for that reason, I'd also kind of be hesitant to gift someone a mohair hat. But I do think following what the Sézane hat did is a good idea using an alpaca blend yarn. So I really, really love the Rowan Alpaca Soft DK, which is a alpaca merino blend, which is so soft. I knit a sweater for my mom with it and she loves it. It's a very soft yarn. And if you want something more affordable that is also an alpaca wool blend, I think that Drops has some good ones. They have Drops Flora and Drops Lima. I always forget which is the thinner one and which is a thicker one. I mean, even the thicker one is only like a DK weight, so it's not very thick. But I have used the DK weight version and I really, really like it. It's very, very soft and I think one of the nicest Drops yarns that I have personally used. And yeah, I think any of those fibers in a ribbed hat would look really cute. Definitely do give it a block because alpaca is prone to stretching out. But just from my personal experience, using an alpaca wool blend is usually more reliable than using a 100% alpaca yarn, and it will have more structure than a 100% alpaca yarn. And then I have one last knit gift idea, and this is an item that I have been obsessing over the past year and a half, saying I'm going to make one, and I still haven't. So I am voicing this and putting this out in this video that I'm going to make this project before the end of the year because it's so simple. And that is a knit scrunchie, specifically the really big ones. And my inspiration like that I found in the gift guide is this one from Damson Madder. But really the one that lives in my heart, the one that I've been obsessing over the past year and a half is the one from Curated by Tomasa. They're mohair scrunchies. I think they look so, so good. And again, this is another item where you can find free patterns on Ravelry very easily. There is the Soho Scrunchie by Tori Yu. Now, the only difference, so if you were to knit a dupe of the Damson Madder one, which is a checkerboard pattern, I think you could very easily follow Tori's pattern, and then instead of just like a plain stockinette, you would just knit it as a checkerboard. You knit a checkerboard rectangle. However, the curated by Tomasa one has a different construction. So it's easier to explain when I have a scrunchie in front of me. So for the Tori Yu one, you are seaming along this part of the scrunchie, like the outer part. Whereas the curated by Tommaso one, you are knitting a long tube and then you are just seaming along the edge, both ends of the tube together. Kind of like this one, which I have ripped. But you know what? I know how to sew now, so I'm gonna try to fix that. But that is relevant. Anyways, even without a pattern, it's literally so easy to make. It's literally a tube. And I think I would like to make both versions. I really like the way that the vertical stripes look on the Curated by Tommaso one. And I have a lot of mohair scraps. And maybe you do too, so you can make this too as a gift. But yeah, that is the last gift knit idea. I got sidetracked because I want to make this for myself. So that's the end of the gift knits. Let's move on to the possible sewing project gifts. And I guess we're going back to Damson Madder. And if you watched my fall mood board video, you probably know that I am obsessed with their entire aesthetic, and I want to knit or sew or buy everything that they make because it's also beautiful. And I really, really loved their gift guide this year. I guess while we're on the topic of scrunchies, let's just talk about these sewn scrunchies. So Damson Madder has some really beautiful ones that were in their gift guide and that came out earlier this year, as well as Loeffler Randall. I have one other item from their gift guide in this video, but I don't know how to pronounce the brand name, even though I've been like familiar with them since high school. I've never really said it out loud, I guess. Anywho, they both have these scrunchies, which I think are a really, really cute idea. And another one that you could personalize, like if you know the gift recipient has a favorite color, or they like a certain sports team, you can use those colors. And I have sewn up some scrunchies earlier this year, and they really don't take long. They don't take a lot of fabric, and it's a great scrappy project, and you can use like ribbons and lace to accessorize them. And whereas in the knitting section of this video, I found specific patterns for most of the items in the sewing section of this video, because there is not a platform that is as expansive as Ravelry that is the same for like sewing items. I don't have specific patterns for most of these items, but literally I just like went on Google, and when I'm looking for tutorials, I like going on Google Images, and I was able to find free tutorials for every single item on this list, including these scrunchies. And I'll actually include a link for the tutorial I followed for these scrunchies because I liked the tutorial. But yeah, that is that little spiel on my tutorials. So after the scrunchies, Damson Madder had a bunch of really cute homeware in their gift guide this year. So they had these quilted stockings, and these just came out so cute. I really like the fabric combinations that they use. They're not combinations that I personally would think of, but I think they look very cute and like eclectic together. And I love the one with the sawtooth star on it, and it has like a little bow detail, and I love how they have the DM embroidered on it. And I think that's like another thing that you could do to personalize a gift, to just like hand sew some of these initials either along the top of the stocking, or if you were to add a bow similar to this one, you could add it to the bow. And again, so many great free stocking tutorials that I found via just like searching on Google Images. I also saw one today on Instagram where it's just like a plain stocking, and then there's like a ruffle added along the outside. And this is also a free pattern, so I will link that one below because I thought it was really, really cute. More kind of like quilty inspired. No, this is not quilty. More plaid. The next item from the Damson Madder gift guide is this plaid apron. Now, aprons are not necessarily something I think of when I think like cute things, but this one is so freaking cute. I love the fabric combination. And again, I really don't think there's that much sewing involved. And when I looked on Google, there is a plethora of free tutorials for how to sew an apron. This one is probably a little bit difficult because you do have to add the ruffle along the sides and the bows. So just from looking at the photos, I think what they did is they sewed the bows in place, and then they have like a separate string for the strap of the apron that you tie around the back. That's just my guess, but you could construct it however you like. And then they also had these more simple or like traditional aprons, but I think it's the fabric choice that makes them really cute. There is this blue one and this cheetah print one. And yeah, I think it's just the fabric choice that makes them very, 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 very cute. I like the trimmings that they put on them. And these would be even simpler to sew than the pink and red ruffly one. And they actually have the next gift idea on this list is related to these because they're kind of like a matching set, and those are oven mitts and oven gloves. I have personally been on the market for oven mitts and gloves this year, but I haven't found any that I really like. But now I'm like, I'm literally just going to make them for myself because these are so cute, but they're over $50, and I am not paying $50 for an oven mitt. But they've given me ideas on how to make cute ones. Again, I really think these just come down to the fabric choice. And when I was looking at the tutorials, I think it comes down to two important things. One, do not use flammable fabrics or threads, which means using a cotton thread and a cotton fabric that is not flammable. And number two, for your like quilted batting, there is a specific heat resistant batting that you can buy that is appropriate for projects like this. And these are just plain fabric, and then they've had quilted stitches added to them. But I think you could also make like a patchworky version, which is what I think I'm going to make, because I've bought so much quilting fabric this year and I don't have concrete plans for a lot of it because I bought it basically, let's say I needed 3 different fabrics for a project, but because I'm new to quilting, I ended up buying like 9 different fabrics because I didn't know how they would work together. And yeah, I'm just left with an excess of fabric, and I've been thinking of what to make, and I'm going to make myself a pair of oven mitts. And then they actually also have matching placemats, which are adorable, but I didn't include them in the gift guide. But you could totally sew a matching set of placemats as well. And I think why I really liked the inspiration from the Damson Madder gift guide is because I think their fabric choices are quite a bit different than what you would see in like a quilting store or a quilting book or magazine or whatever. And I don't know, it just feels a little bit more contemporary and youthful and modern versus more maybe like traditional quilting motifs, which can feel youthful and modern and contemporary, but it just, like, again, I think it just comes down to the fabric choices. Then I have one last item from the Damson Madder gift guide, and that is this cute little quilted makeup bag. I feel like bags like these have been having a moment over the past few years. I don't really see them going anywhere because they're adorable and they're functional. The best of both worlds. And again, so many great patterns for this. Search YouTube, search Google, search Etsy. I know Maybe the Label just came out with her little box pouch pattern. It's like only €3, very affordable, and it comes in 2 sizes. It's just something that so many people could use, and I think depending on the fabric that you use, it can match different people's vibes. I really like the plaid fabric that they used in the Damson Madder gift guide, but then I think they also had like they had this one with the bows on it. And then in the Sézane gift guide, they also had some of these types of pouches. And I also like how a lot of these Damson Madder gifts have like their little DM tag. Now, obviously, you cannot get that tag if you do not buy the Damson Madder product. However, on Etsy, you can order your own customized tags, or I've seen people like make like hand embroidered or hand sewn, or I don't know all the different needlecraft names, but they've made like their own little labels, which I think is a really cute idea. Or like a lot of brands, if you go to a fabric shop or even like some local yarn stores, sell like those little labels that you can put in garments. And I think some of them could also work in like the same way that the labels are used in the pouches or on the oven mitts. Okay, we're finally nearing the end of this video. I have 3 more gift ideas. Next is from Sézane, and it's this little flat roll-up jewelry pouch, and I thought this was adorable. Now, when I was looking at this one, I did find a lot of different tutorials on YouTube and on Google Images, and this is definitely one of the projects where I feel like the fabric choices and the finishings made the biggest difference between something that looks like a Sézane piece, and something that looks, I don't like saying things look homemade in a derogatory way because I love my homemade goods, and a lot of times like that's a vibe I'm going for, but like the Sézane one definitely does not have that vibe. So I'm not saying homemade in a derogatory way. I'm just saying it as a point of comparison. And I think that the reason why the Sézane one looks different or elevated or whatever adjective you want to use to describe it comes down to the fabric choices. So it is made with, it looks like a thicker sort of corduroy. And then also it uses metal zippers and finishings. And I just think like the combination of all that elevates it a little. When I was looking for patterns, there was actually one specific YouTube tutorial that popped out to me that I was probably biased because I like their fabric choices in this tutorial. I think this tutorial would be pretty solid for adapting to make this Sézane piece. Sézane inspired flat roll up jewelry case. Next, the penultimate gift idea is this gorgeous ruffled bag from Loeffler Randall. And this is like another one where I just think it's the little details that make it extra cute to me. I really like the double layered ruffle along the edging, and then again, like the little patch on the bag, which you could buy, DIY, whatever your little heart desires. And I actually found a pattern on Etsy that was very, very similar. It is the Ruffle Big Bag by OJ Rune. I think modifying it to have 2 layers of ruffles would be pretty easy, and then you would have a bag that looks basically exactly like the Loeffler Randall bag. Finally, we have gotten to the last gift idea, and this one may be a little bit niche, but I had to share it because I want to make this for myself. All these gift ideas I really just want to make for myself. Like, I'm saying them as gift ideas, but I'm like, I want to gift them to me. And this is from the Tanner Fletcher gift guide, and it's just a really big bow. That's literally it. So really, really long, big bow you can wear in your hair. I love the tall one, but the satiny ones are cute too. You could wear them to a holiday party. You could wear them to a non-party. You can wear them any day of the week. I personally am of the belief that bows are for any time and anywhere. Okay, maybe not anywhere. I mean, you can make it a little bit shorter if you wanted to make it maybe a little bit more daytime appropriate, but I think they're really, really long ones are really cool for like a nighttime event, or if you want to wear them in the daytime, go forth and do that. And I feel like the big bows really made the comeback with Sandy Liang. They have their double layered big bows, which are so beautiful. Probably take a little bit more fabric and a little bit more finagly because they do have the 2 layers. But these Tanner Fletcher ones only have 1 layer, and they still look so cute. And there's so many tutorials for how to sew a bow and turn it into a hair accessory. Admittedly, a lot of them are like catered towards toddlers. The sewing pattern is not for toddlers. The finished object is for toddlers, but you can make it for an adult. I will make it for an adult. And yeah, it's kind of crazy that these, both the Tanner Fletcher and the Sandy Liang bows, are over $100. So that is a pricey gift, but one that you can easily make yourself. That is the end of this little DIY gift guide. Hopefully, if you were thinking of possible gift ideas for yourself or for other people, this video gave you some ideas. Like I've mentioned in some of my previous videos, I really, really like getting inspiration from ready-to-wear brands because sometimes I feel like I fall into like a little maker echo chamber where my makes are purely influenced by what I'm seeing other makers making. But then when I have the finished object, I maybe don't like it as much because my personal style or my personal aesthetic or whatever is more in line of like everything that I'm consuming, not purely the making content. Hopefully that was not overly wordy, but basically what I'm trying to say is I'm not only influenced by one thing. I'm influenced by like everything that I consume, the world around me, and I think looking at inspiration from ready to wear brands helps with that. And especially if you're gifting to somebody who is not a maker, maybe their choices do not align with what's popular in the knitting community or the sewing community, and finding something that is popular or trendy or appealing to the general public is probably or maybe a better guideline for a gift. Am I being overly verbose? I don't know. Hopefully, what I'm trying to say is coming across. Anywho, if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, feel free to give it a like and follow. And as always, I would love to know what you are working on or knitting while watching this video because I'm just nosy like that. Also, I get guys just share great pattern recommendation and also designer recommendations. That's truly the end. Thank you again for watching. I hope to see you again next time. Happy knitting, happy holidays, and bye for now.